It's week 14 of the 2018 MLS season, and the Western Conference race is starting to heat up. On this inaugural episode of the LAFC Report, we're going to be discussing Walker Zimmerman's national team appearance, the upcoming matchup against FC Dallas, plus, does the league have a littering problem? Stick around and find out. The LAFC Report is next. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the first edition of the LAFC Report. I'm your host, Michael Patterson, and I am so very excited to finally get this show started. And I already know what you're thinking. Come on, man. This is your first episode and it's week 14. It's a little late. But I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm a college student. It's summer now. Exams are over. I got so much more time to talk about the team we all love, the Los Angeles Football Club, and I hope you're just as excited as I am. All right, now before we get into the show, I first want to say thank you so very much for taking the time out of your day to join me on the first episode of the LAFC Report. I'm creating this show purely as a fan of the organization. I don't have any insider knowledge. I'm not being paid by the club. I'm doing this solely because I'm a fan of the organization, and I'm a broadcast journalism student. I'm trying to get better. So if you guys have comments for me at the end of this show, feel free to leave them down in the comments section. I will read them. I promise you, I'm not a very sensitive guy, so feel free to let me know. So let's just jump right on into it now. Our first topic of the day, and we're mostly going to be starting the shows off with this from now on, is the latest news coming out of the Los Angeles Football Club. So I'm going to be looking specifically at the news post the matchup against DC United. So it's only been, at the time of this recording, about 5 days since that matchup happened. So anything following that and post the release date, I'm sorry, I won't be able to cover it. This is just all I've got right now at my disposal. And so the top story I've got for you guys is Walker Zimmerman making his third appearance and scoring his first goal for the U.S. men's national team this past Memorial Day against Bolivia. Now, let me tell you, this is a topic I have been wanting to talk about for so long now, ever since Walker Zimmerman got called up to the national team for this matchup against Bolivia. This is the best of both worlds for me. It's Walker Zimmerman playing for LAFC, my favorite domestic team in the U.S., playing for the U.S. men's national team, my home country. It's super exciting. I wish there were more people getting called up from LAFC to the men's national team, but, at least having someone like Walker Zimmerman who's young, getting that experience, and that's where the U.S. men's national team is going right now, honestly. They're trying to, build the young core of this team so that they can be ready for when we have to qualify for the tournament again in 2021 and 2022 for the tournament. So this game, U.S. men's national team takes on Bolivia. Like I said, I was excited about this match, but just to be real, it's a game against Bolivia. Bolivia's not the greatest team out there. It's not it's not a money match. No one's trying to get this game because they're like, oh, I can't wait to see U.S. men's national team take on Bolivia. But for fans of the U.S. men's national team, especially ones that, like myself, who have been sad that the U.S. didn't qualify for the World Cup this summer, it allows us to kind of rebuild. And this game, for one, with the result that happened, really gives me hope for this team moving forward for this team with this young core, especially for Walker Zimmerman holding down that defense. Just like in the regular LAFC games, he played that center defensive position, this time without Laurent Simon, obviously, but Walker Zimmerman was able to hold down the back line very easily against this team. You might just be able to chuck it up for the fact that this team really wasn't that good. I mean, they only had about 3 shots on goal the entire game, or 3 shots just in general in the entire game. So I don't think Zimmerman really had that much of a tough time defending all of these guys, but still, that's a good result. I mean, who's to know if the senior national team, the normal guys that play for the national team, would have been able to hold out Bolivia? I mean, they thought they were going to do that against Trinidad and Tobago, but obviously that didn't happen. So good on Walker Zimmerman for that performance. But the best thing that happened from that game is Walker Zimmerman gets his first goal for the U.S. men's national team in just his third appearance for the team. He made his debut for the team back in February of 2017, and he's only been called up one other time then. And this is great. I think this definitely, it opens up his account for this team, and it also shows the organization both with LAFC and the national team that Walker Zimmerman isn't something to overlook. The U.S. men's national team's defensive line has obviously been one of the weakest parts of the team. I mean, just in past history, even in 2014, it was always something, everyone was really nervous about, DeMarcus Beasley, is he going to be able to take on Cristiano Ronaldo like in his prime? You were always having to worry about that. And I still think now it's something to worry about. They're not the most experienced core, but that's the whole point of this game. And Walker Zimmerman's performance definitely lets them know, both of these organizations, that he is someone that has the composure, both in front of the goal on defense and in front of the goal on offense. He is somebody that you need to be looking for on set pieces. And I think this is especially interesting, the way that he scores this goal in terms of LAFC, because LAFC, their set pieces are weak. It's just a fact. I mean, I think they've scored 1 or 2 goals off set pieces this season, and most of the balls are trying to be sent towards Laurent Ciman, which is great. Laurent Ciman, one of the most experienced guys on the team. But now with this goal, Walker Zimmerman definitely asserts himself as being one to look for and one that you need to mark potentially going into the box, and I think that's good for him. A lot of people were a little worried in terms of LAFC because Walker Zimmerman was going to be rumored to be playing in the friendlies for the U.S. in Europe. But it was reported this past Tuesday that apparently he is being relieved of his national team duties and that he will be able to play in the matchup against his former club, FC Dallas, this coming Saturday. Now, I saw a lot of speculation online, potentially about, maybe Walker didn't play the best and that's why he got called down. But I think this is just a matter of the U.S. realizing their position right here. They're not trying to qualify for any games. This is just a tune-up to be able to see what they've got. So I'm sure that organization went, we've got Walker Zimmerman here, great defender, great outing, but LAFC needs him in the back line, so we can just let him go, especially since the U.S. didn't have their normal players in this first game. They didn't have Bobby Wood, Alejandro Bedoya, those kinds of names. Guys that have made appearances for the team before but didn't make this first round are able to go play in Europe. So the U.S. definitely has options going forward without Walker Zimmerman. But it'll be interesting to see that back line without him, because I think Walker Zimmerman definitely was a force in that game that kind of held everyone together. And I think he really is learning from Laurent Ciman. Ciman is, he's called the general for a reason. He's a great captain. He's able to organize everybody. And I think Zimmerman kind of played in that role, even though he wasn't the captain against Bolivia. But overall, very happy for Zimmerman. Very happy he's going to be playing in the match against FC Dallas, because we won't have Ciman on Saturday. So that's very good to hear. And I look forward to see Zimmerman's future with the U.S. men's national team going forward. Okay, on to the next LAFC news topic for this week is LAFC announcing that they have signed young Canadian goalkeeper Quillan Roberts to the club's supplemental roster. Roberts officially signs with LAFC after joining the first team during the 2018 preseason. Now, this is very interesting to me for a litany of reasons. This now is our 4th goalkeeper signed onto our roster. 4 goalkeepers. Why do we need 4 goalkeepers? It's definitely not, unreasonable to have 4 goalkeepers, but it's not common, which makes me think there must be something going on that, and this is pure speculation here, and obviously I hope none of this is true, but there must be something going on internally with the goalkeepers. Tyler Miller, the goalkeeper right now, I think he's playing fine. A lot of people don't really think he's playing that well. I think he's playing great, despite him being the quote-unquote backup goalkeeper. He's right behind Luis Lopez right now, who hasn't played a single game this whole season. And some people are reporting that he may not be available at all this season and might go on the disabled list. But still, at that point, we have 3 goalkeepers. 3 goalkeepers. If anything happens to Tyler Miller, we still have Charlie Lyon, and Charlie Lyon's no joke either. He played a very great game against Borussia Dortmund. Obviously, he let up 1 goal that I think he probably could have stopped, but that's okay. It's just a friendly. But this is definitely very interesting going forward with LAFC in terms of their goalkeeping situation, because the goalkeepers, at least in my opinion, I don't think are really the group that needs the most work right now. It's probably, universally thought as the midfield. But nevertheless, welcome Quillan. Welcome Quillan to LAFC. A little bit about Quillan's past. He's 23 years old, from Toronto, Canada, and he has recently been linked from the Toronto FC Academy and the Portugal FC Academy. He signed his first team contract with Toronto FC in 2012 and has played for the USL sides, the Wilmington Hammerheads, and Toronto FC too, but he was released ahead of the 2017 season. He's also played with the Woodbridge Strikers. My apologies. But some of the stuff that I've seen online from Quillan Roberts, there's quite a viral video of him online scoring a goal from his own half in the FIFA Under-17 World Cup back in 2011. I had the chance of looking at it earlier today. It's a pretty good goal. I'm not gonna lie. So maybe if he's able to do that for LAFC, then hey, more power to him. This is a pretty good signing. But it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do moving forward, because I don't really think many of the top MLS teams, or just the MLS teams in general, have really given him a shot at this point. Because he's been, at least from what I'm seeing online, is that he was the 7th graduate to join Toronto FC after being in their academy program, but 4 years in the first team, and he hadn't made a single senior appearance and was released before that season, to which he went down on loan from Toronto FC to the 2 USL sides that I mentioned earlier, where he seemed to have a pretty decent turnout. And I think that's probably why LAFC took a liking in him, because I don't really think LAFC has really any interest in signing a half decent goalkeeper from the USL to a 4th goalkeeper spot. I mean, come on. So nevertheless, welcome Quillan. Hope you can provide something for this team, but certainly I'm interested to see what this means for the team, because a 4th goalkeeper signing I think is pretty odd, but it might just be my conspiracy theories in my head thinking that there's something else going on. Okay, and now with that being said, we are going to transition into the next segment of the show, which is going to be looking at the next LAFC matchup and analyzing the team and how the team can play better in this matchup. So LAFC's next matchup is going to be this Saturday against FC Dallas. This is the second matchup we are going to have against FC Dallas this season. This time we are going to be playing them at their house in Texas. It is going to be a early evening game, I believe around 5 o'clock, and it is one of the games that I certainly have been looking forward to ever since we played them the first time this season earlier this month. It's because it set up a really great narrative for this team, and I think it's kind of been demonstrative of how this team has played this kind of whole month of May. We played FC Dallas to a 1-1 tie, and this was the game that really showed that LAFC might have a little bit of a problem with putting away chances. Now, if you just look at completely statistics of the past game we had against FC Dallas, and obviously since we're a new club, we can only look at this one game against them, and we played them at home, so obviously the statistics might be different this time around, but just looking at statistics, we outplayed this team. We outshot them 15-8, on target 4-3. Our passing percentages were higher. We were passing 89% passing accuracy overall compared to their 79%, which I'll go on a little bit of an aside, by the way. 89% is awesome. This team can really pass. And as for someone who is used to watching the U.S. men's national team, passing is something that team doesn't really do very well. And so seeing LAFC do it is a breath of fresh air, as well as possession in general. LAFC outpossessed FC Dallas about 64% to 35%. LAFC just overall was the more aggressive team in this game. They had more corners. They didn't win. They lost out on duels won, tackles won, saves, and clearances. However, this is the statistic that really, I think, is the takeaway from this game. LAFC beat FC Dallas on missed chances 4-1. 4 missed chances in that game. And if you go back and look at highlights of this game, there are tons of opportunities where LAFC missed goals, and they may not have been the best opportunities to score, but there were certainly opportunities to put the game away. And I think a 1-1 tie against FC Dallas was not the result that I think people were expecting, and definitely not the one that they needed. And I think this has kind of set LAFC down a path ever since that game now, because LAFC's form in the past 5 games has been 3 draws, a loss, and 2 wins, which is one of the worst 5-game forms this team has had all season in terms of points. And obviously it's not bad. We still sit 3rd in the league, but compared to when we were playing FC Dallas the first time, there was a lot of disparity with us sitting in 2nd place with the rest of the teams in the league. I believe FC Dallas was sitting in around 5th or 6th at that point, kind of in the middle of the pack. And at this point now, they sit 2nd in the Western Conference behind Sporting Kansas City. LAFC is in 3rd, but Portland, Real Salt Lake, and Houston are all very close behind. Portland's only a one point back with 1 game in pocket, and Real Salt Lake is 2 games behind, but they have played 1 more game than LAFC. And Houston is at just the same amount as us, but only 3 points back. So now is the time where LAFC really needs to show what they're made of in this game, because they can't keep dropping points, especially to teams like DC United. And I don't even want to get into that because that game's just a completely different discussion and has its own things that needs to be talked about in there. But this game is super important for LAFC going forward, not just in terms of their standing, but in terms of legitimacy, because now is the time, and this is going to be the first game where LAFC is playing without all of its World Cup players. So LAFC is going to be missing, I believe, 4 players. It looks like they're going to be missing Lawrence Simon, Omar Gaber, Marco Orena, and Carlos Vela. So those are 4 players that are, in my opinion, some of the best players we have on our team. Obviously, Marco Orena is not going to play anyway because he's injured, but Lawrence Simon, Omar Gaber, and Carlos Vela, 3, and in Simon and Vela, 2 starters, and Gaber probably could have started in the future, but those are 4 guys right there that are central to our team, and those people not being there, it's definitely going to leave a hole for LAFC that they need to fill, especially now that Djokovic got a red card in the last matchup we played against DC United, so he's going to be suspended. So that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for our defense to really make a name for themselves. Looking at the projected started 11 right now, it's a very interesting back 4. This projection has Beitashour, Moutinho, Zimmerman, and Harvey sitting in the back, which Zimmerman, Harvey, Beitashour, and Moutinho, I have confidence in them, but they haven't all necessarily played together. And of course, Moutinho has always been one that has kind of been inconsistent, and I think Moutinho has really helped by having someone like Simon in the game, because he can really reel him in. And you've seen in interviews where they've had of each other how they talk of each other as kind of like a mentor relationship. And so it'll be interesting to see how Moutinho plays without Simon, and how players like Zimmerman maybe, for example, will be able to take in that role of being the central defender that will keep everybody intact. It'll be interesting to see who captains this game with Simon out. I say it probably goes to either Beitashour or Fehlhaber. Obviously, I could be wrong, but it'd be really great to see if Walker Zimmerman got the captain's band, but I don't really know, since because of his young age, he's only about 25, that he'll get that position. But that is the part of the field, and I know most people are looking at the midfield trying to see how they're going to play, but it looks very similar to most of the games. This projection has Fehlhaber, Atuesta, and Mark Anthony Kaye rounding out that 3 midfielders, which are players that have been playing in the midfield regularly this season. So it's this defense that I think is really going to be the group that not only gets the most scrutinized, but is the group that needs to show that they can hang without having the captain in there. So that's definitely something to look forward to. Now, moving on from the defense, and not really going to look too much at the midfield right now because that's pretty standard, but it's going to be the top 3. This projection I'm looking at has a 4-3-3 right now, and that 3 at the top has Diomande, Latif Blessing, and Diego Rossi. And those 3 are a group that I have really looked forward to, into seeing the 3 of them play together. Obviously, I'd love to have Carlos Vela up top, but Latif Blessing has been playing very well. I think Diego Rossi needs to prove a lot in these next couple of games. Even if he scored against FC Dallas, he certainly hasn't been playing as well as I think a lot of people expected him to after the first couple games. And Diomande hasn't made a single appearance for the team in regular play this season. Obviously, he played for against the Borussia Dortmund game for about 30 minutes, but I want to see him play against MLS caliber talent, because I think in the Dortmund game, he played very well. In the minimal time that he played, the dude is built like a truck. He's huge. He's a really strong guy, and he's very good at holding up the ball. In multiple instances in that game against Dortmund, he was able to hold that ball up and make those passes and look around just because of his pure size. It's very hard to get around that guy. And so I'm looking forward to see how that goes, especially with Dallas. I watched their game against the Galaxy last night because I was shooting this on Thursday, and I wasn't super impressed with them for the whole 90. If you watched that game like I did, the first half was, for most of the game, honestly, was all Dallas. They were controlling the game. They were up 3-0, making the Galaxy look absolutely ridiculous. And Galaxy's had their own problems with coaching and playing and motivation this season, and I'm not going to get into that. But Dallas was really controlling this game. But they somehow, some way were able to let Ibrahimovic come in and get a pair of goals and almost letting the Galaxy get back into that and tying it up. And even in the end, now Christian Coleman isn't going to be able to play either because he got a red card in that game for some reason. I don't think there's been an explanation yet in terms of why he got that red card, but nonetheless, he won't be able to play in that game. But besides that, none of the rest of their normal players are going to be sitting out in terms of injuries or suspensions. So I think it'll be a very similar lineup to how they played us last time. And in terms of what LAFC needs to do better this time around, they need to play. It's two things for me that LAFC needs to work on for this game as compared to the last game. One is the blatantly obvious. They need to put away those chances. You can't have 4 shots on goal and 15 total shots and only score 1 goal. There needs to be at least another one. That cannot happen, especially when the other team's only shooting 8 and they only have 3 on target and they tie you. That just can't happen. So offensively, they need to put chances away, and I think it will be a different kind of style this time around because the front 3 is going to look a lot different. You have a lot faster players up front now. You're going to have Latif Blessing going up a little bit more, which is good, as well as Diomande being able to sit up top of the box, who I haven't seen him play much yet, but I can imagine that guy's probably got a monster shot from up top of the box, so that's definitely one to look for. But the other thing that I think LAFC needs to do a lot better on this time around is taking care of the defensive positioning. FC Dallas's front group is extremely quick. In the game last night, they made all of the Galaxy defenders look like they were sitting on their heels. Go back and look at the highlights of that game. Every single goal is because they just absolutely fooled them with how fast they are. Their passes are quick in the box. They'll come out of nowhere and they'll make these blasting runs. And you could see it in the game they had against us. They were outpacing our defense. And that's something our defense has never really had much of. Our defense isn't really that quick. And that leads to a lot of last chance challenges that fortunately people like Laurent Simon are able to get. But with him out, who's going to make those wonder saves anymore, So that is the LAFC really needs to be smarter in how they make tackles going forward. So many times I think you see this team try to step in between the passing lane to try and bake up that pass, but it allows that player, if they don't make that tackle, to have an absolutely open shot on goal. Dallas's 1 goal they had against us was just like that. Simon tried to get in between Urruti's inside shoulder and wasn't able to get there in time, so he was able to turn around and make an uncontested shot into the lower right corner of the goal. So if they want to not allow that this time, I think it's important for LAFC to play a little bit more cautiously in terms of trying to make those last chance tackles, or else FC Dallas is just going to run right over them. But overall, I expect LAFC to play well against Dallas, even if they're playing them in an away game. Dallas is a great team, and they've proved that this season. They're second place in the league right now, and that's definitely no joke. I mean, we were there not even a week or 2 ago. So this is an important game, but FC Dallas is playing on a short rest period. They played that game on Wednesday, so they have 3 days to prepare for this match on Saturday. And that game they played on Wednesday was against the Galaxy in Carson. So FC Dallas may not have the freshest legs after that game, so hopefully LAFC can jump on that and get back into the win column, because we need LAFC to win the league and get that Champions League spot and become the champions that we all know they can be. So hopefully you're looking forward as much to this game as I am, and I look forward to talking about it and giving my analysis of it and hearing what you guys think in a recap video that will be coming sometime in the days after that game. And now moving on to our final segment of the show today. It's an unnamed segment. I know, should have prepared a little bit better. But in this segment, I'm going to be talking about a controversial or debated topic in the world of professional soccer in the U.S., and then give my take on it. And all these topics are going to be at least loosely related to LAFC. Obviously, this is an LAFC-related show, so we got to keep it related. But this week, I decided to look at instances of fans throwing trash onto the field and whether or not it will continue at venues around the country, such as Bank of California Stadium. Now, if you've been watching LAFC this entire season like I have, there have been a couple of instances this season where fan conduct necessarily hasn't been the best. And I think the team has done a very good job up to this point of stomping things out, and I'm sure this is going to be no different. But it started earlier in the season with the P chant, and now I think it's moved on to this after Darren Maddox, I guess taunted is probably the appropriate word, the 32-52 in the game against DC United this past weekend. And so after that, and then I had seen reports of this online as well, but I couldn't confirm it anywhere because I hadn't seen any pictures. But people are saying online that fans were throwing pretzels onto the field in the game against Seattle in the home opener this season. Now, I don't know the legitimacy of that claim, but I certainly would put it past people. And now I'm not trying to say anything about the LAFC fan base at all, but sometimes fans just tend to do that. And this isn't certainly something that is exclusive to soccer. You know, in plenty of other sports I've seen fans have thrown things onto the field. That's why you get beer in plastic cups or in thin aluminum bottles so that you can't throw them onto the field. But nevertheless, this is something that I certainly am very worried about, and I'm kind of embarrassed with, not just with the fan base, but with sports fans in general, because what happened in the LAFC game, it was bad, yes, and I'm going to talk about that. But what really sparked this whole debate in the first place was when Orlando fans did this against when they played Atlanta United in that whole fiasco. And this isn't going to be a discussion about that game, whether or not the refs were correct or not, but it was obvious fans were not happy with that result, and they let the referee or the team, whoever it was, show it by throwing beer and food and trash onto the field. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I think that is probably one of the most inappropriate and childish things I think you can do at any kind of game. Why on earth would you throw trash at people on a beautiful field at human beings because of a sport? That's just how it is. I'm super passionate about this team. I've got very powerful words for people on the other team. And, you know, I've been in the 32-52 a couple times now, and I've been in supporter groups in the American Outlaws for the U.S. national team. That passion is there. I understand the passion. But throwing trash at people, like, that's just so messed up. Why do you have to do that? And I think LAFC is taking steps to eliminate this, because they did the same thing with the P chant. It was really bad. Everyone on the MLS subreddit said something about it, had their opinion about how, you know, we're such a terrible organization because we allow this. And then from then on, they didn't have that issue anymore. And I'm sure this will be a very similar thing, but it's certainly disheartening trying to show people, you know, your favorite team. I showed this game, the racing game at DC United, to one of my friends who's never really watched soccer before, but he's been interested because of how passionate I've been about this team. And once he saw that fans were throwing garbage onto the field, he was almost embarrassed. He was like, do they do that often? Like, I don't really want to, you know, be a part of that or support that. And it's unfortunate, and I'm honestly just going to chalk this up. And again, this is an assumption. It was probably just some regular, you know, maybe not, they probably weren't members of supporter groups. I don't really think a true fan of the game, a true fan of the sports, or just sports in general, would really ever do that to somebody. And that's kind of the problem with having a section that we do at Bank of California Stadium, is that they're usually the cheapest tickets, and from that point, people want to go get that. It's just, I really hope that this is something that doesn't continue moving forward, not just in this, but in the rest of MLS. MLS gets a bad reputation from a lot of people. I don't really think it's warranted, because obviously, I mean, if you really watch the league and pay attention to it, it's a great product. It's great sport. It's great competition. It may not be up to the Premier League, obviously, or other, leagues in Europe, but it's still a great product. And as someone like myself who really wants to see the sport of soccer get larger in this country, having people throw trash onto the field at other human beings because they're upset of a simple taunt that they did to them because their team lost, it's extremely embarrassing, and I really hope it doesn't move forward in the future. But that leads to the next thing of, how do we fix this? And I think it's a pretty easy fix. It's the same kind of thing with the P chant. If you see somebody doing it, if you see something, say something. Obviously it may not be the most comfortable thing for people to kind of call out bad people, but if you really care about this organization and having a stellar reputation and having more people want to come to this stadium and be a part of it, I think we all have to do our part in calling out these kinds of people and letting them know that this behavior is certainly not tolerated. And I know for one that the next time I'm in the stadium, if people are throwing trash, I don't care if that makes me, a narc. I just, you can't do the person, no matter how angry they make you. And I'm just going to have a side here. Darren Maddox made me really angry. Like that whole game was frustrating, and I can understand the frustration for Darren Maddox. And I hope that when we play DC United again, we absolutely destroy them. And whoever it is, I don't care, anybody on the team does some kind of gesture to Darren Maddox to show him that we will not tolerate that kind of celebration in our house, especially coming from the worst team in the league. Like, come on, really? But getting back to the topic at hand, it's very embarrassing, and I hope that we can all learn from this situation and help our organization get better, and I fully believe that it will, just based on the track record that the club has so far with stomping out bad things. Already, I mean, just in other things. In the first game that we had against FC Dallas, where that FC Dallas fan was able to come into the 3252 in the general admission section and start singing, derogatory or whatever you want to call it, chants about LAFC. And since then, security now sits at the gates and checks tickets. That's just another example of how the club reacts to these kinds of things, and I really think that they're going to be better on that. And probably, and I bet that we will see something the next home game LAFC has at Bank of California Stadium, that the club will say something about trying to respect the players on the field, because you just don't need to do that. It's unnecessary. So come on, everybody. And that will do it for the first LAFC Report episode of the season. Again, I know, guys, I'm sorry. I'm starting this a little late, but better late than never. I finally got the equipment. I finally got the time. And I'm really looking forward to talking about this team more with you guys, because I'm really passionate. I know you all are super passionate. So I hope to hear from you guys moving forward. Like I mentioned a little bit in the beginning, I'm very new to this. I'm just a student trying to get better at broadcasting. I'm a fan of this team. So if you have any criticisms at all of what I can do better, of how I can improve, feel free to let me know in the comments. Like I said, I'm not a super sensitive guy. I can take criticism well. Obviously, if you're going to troll, I'm not going to respond to you. But I look forward to getting that kind of criticism. So if you feel like there's something I can improve on, please let me know. And last but not least, once again, if you've stuck around for the whole show, thank you very much. This is a project I've been looking forward a lot to getting started, and I hope that it can grow. I've got lots of plans for this show to grow, not only audio-wise, but I'll be starting a shorter kind of news recap video show about LAFC, about once a week. I just have to get the equipment for it. Hopefully you're watching the LAFC matchup against FC Dallas this Saturday. I sure know I am, and I hope you stick around, maybe give a subscribe, give a like, so that you can follow my progress with this team going forward, and you stay around for potential update videos I have on the FC Dallas matchup and the rest of the LAFC season going forward. And once again, I'm your host, Michael Patterson. You can follow me on Twitter at MikePatNews. That's MikePattnews to be able to follow my progress as a broadcaster and to hear the latest opinions and possible match updates for the LAFC matches and the rest of the content I create going forward. Once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.